Greetings, salutations, and other big words. My name's Ethan. My handle's Wrangler. Welcome to Frequency Studios. I don't have much of a musical introduction, so instead, I'm bringing on a musical guest. Welcome to IronAge Spotlight number 3, and tonight we have the one, the only, Chillkid. Chillkid, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing, Ethan?
Doing pretty good. So you got some music, you got some albums, you do some other various musical work. So tell me, how'd you get started in this?
Well, honestly, I started when I was real little. I had a tape recorder, so I was about 8 years old, and I started recording stuff off of the radio, and like messing with it and pausing it and recording at different times. And it was really really bad, but I was trying to like cut parts out of songs and stuff like that and make it, you know, I was just messing with sound a lot then, and I started singing then, and so I just turned 38, which means I've been working on music for 3 decades, which sounds really impressive until you listen to what I make. So I'm just kidding, but yeah, and then
Well, I enjoy what you make. That's why you're here.
thank you, man. I appreciate that. And then all growing up, I was building amplifiers out of just junk electronics, out of like
Cool.
old Radio Shack stereos and stuff, so I could plug my ratty guitar into it that I found at a garage sale. So a long time. And in high school, I started a three-piece punk band, and we went for about 10 years. And yeah, went all over
As
the
a
place.
punk band?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Nice.
But yeah, and then recently, I kind of had to step back from music because I was getting into a business that I didn't have enough time to play music, and I needed to devote time to that. And we all kind of agreed to disband and work on that.
Mhm.
And then I got married, and flash forward a little while, I started doing YouTube videos.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you, thank you. We're coming up on 13 years, man. It's something else.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's been cool. I'm definitely the lucky one. But as far as music goes, getting into Chillkid, I started making YouTube videos, and that was right about the time of the adpocalypse and all the copyright strikes and stuff started cropping up. So
Yeah.
I needed music, and I just was like, I remembered using Fruity Loops when I was a kid. So I pulled that up and just started making these loops for the background of my music or for my videos. And I kind of kind of fell back in love with music again, And then I just started making longer songs and stuff. And my daughters are into a lot of different stuff, so I turned it into a way to kind of encourage them to get their stuff done that they're supposed to do, and then pick something that they really like to put their energy into. So yeah, and it just kind of exploded into a thing where I make music for all sorts of stuff now. So
Cool. You got a couple hails in the chat there. Hello, Asher Burnett, and hello, TJ Marquis. How you guys doing tonight? Yeah,
okay, I see it. There it is.
So when did you make your first album?
As far as Chillkid goes,
Yeah.
okay, so that was 20. I think it was 2018. I had about 10 songs that I'd worked on. Some of them were expanded loops from my YouTube videos, and then others were just like brand new tracks and stuff. And I put together a really rough sounding album and just put it out on SoundCloud. And at the time, it was on BitChute as well. But
I remember BitChute.
Yeah, but yeah, it was pretty bad. And both the people that listened to it were like, "Hey, this is nice." So I'm going to listen to about 13 seconds and leave. So some of those songs got repurposed and remastered, and then I had a whole new set of songs. I was really learning my software, and I put out Knockdown in, I think it was 2019. So that was kind of the update. I dropped some of the songs that didn't work, and then remastered the other ones that did. So yeah, that was that was all on SoundCloud, and a lot of my the videos I've done, like you've got Trouble Beyond the Airlock. That was the first song on there, and some others that I submitted for contests and stuff. But yeah, so not that long ago.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
You there?
Yes, sir. I'm right here.
Have I got you back? Okay. My Wi-Fi signal just dropped, and then now it just shot right back up. I don't know what was going on there.
No
do you
problem.
have any albums other than under the banner of Chillkid, or?
Yeah, when I was in a punk band, we put out. First, we started with a single called "Tough as Nails." The band was called Disorganized Crime,
Yeah.
and then we put out "A New Kind of Soldier," which this was all like early 2000s. We're talking like 2003, like 2005, somewhere in that area. I don't remember the name of the third one, but we ended in 2010, and we self-produced and released "Getting Back Up," which was because we took a lot of hard hits as far as being able to get out there and play music and get around. And we came back, we kind of regrouped, and then we came back stronger and went on a tour of. I mean, for us, it was a big deal. We went to Michigan and to Texas and Kansas, Arkansas, and yeah, we kind of just did a loop, and spent the whole summer just kind of enjoying being a band, which is something we'd always wanted to do, but we were just too tied up in just stuff. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. I have copies. I have a whole big box full of them. So every once in a while, somebody asks about it, and I toss them a CD. So it's kind of cool.
So are they still available if somebody wants to look those up?
Oh, sure, absolutely. If anybody has questions about Disorganized Crime, get at me in Gilded afterwards, and I'll gladly get you the music. I never really cared about making a bunch of money off of it. I just like sharing music with people. It's been a passion since, like I said, since I was 8 years old. So
cool. Speaking of which, let me see if I can do this properly.
I say that to myself like 19 times a day, I swear. And then I go, no.
Hold on, let me try that one more time.
So who do we got over here? I don't know that I've interacted with, was it Asher and TJ? I don't think I've interacted with them yet. How you guys doing?
See, Asher is AB on the forums.
Oh, okay. Okay. And I know I've been really aloof on that. I am sorry. It's been a wild year.
Yep. Okay. Yes, share audio is an option. All right.
Nice.
Let's see.
Hey, I know that guy.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. It says share sound is an option, so let's see if I can play a bit of this. All right. This is from your album Completely Safe.
Yes, sir.
Is it coming across?
I hear it, yep. Yeah. It's a little rough, but I can still hear it. Since TJ's cleaning up for dinner, that's cool, man. Yeah, it's good to have a nice clean place to eat, for sure. Our table is covered with stuff for Christmas right now.
Yeah, really?
Yep.
Yeah. I was just hauling a tree across the house right before we got on here.
There you go.
And I gotta say, Chillkid is an appropriate moniker for the tunes you make.
Well, thank you, man. It's funny, I came up with that name because I really like making music with my kids with me sometimes, But there was one day they were going absolutely bananas.
Hold on. Unfortunately, I got to pause it because I couldn't hear you. I was looking for a volume control so I could bring that down a little and have it continue to play while you talked and we could hear you. It just...
Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm kind of new to all this. I don't know. Like,
join the club. TJ Marquis says, doing great, cleaning up after dinner and listening. Yeah. I wonder if is there a volume control anywhere on here where I could just dial that back a bit. If there
While you're
is,
doing that, I'll finish what I was saying. But my daughters were just going bonkers while I was trying to make a song.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what I said to them. I said, "Chill, kid," and then just kind of stuck. Ended up being a good band name.
Yeah. Ironically, My favorite song on your album is probably the most depressing title of all of them. We were never meant to be.
Oh yeah.
I was driving along listening. I'm like, this one's really cool. I like it. What's it called? I looked down there. I'm like, yeah. I was like, that sounds kind of sad. You
Well,
know, it was like sounds so cool and upbeat and.
I'm glad you like that one, because one of the things I try to do as a musician is I try to open strong and close strong. I want all my tracks to be good standalone tracks for sure. But if you've got a collection of music, I think it's really important to present yourself well at the beginning and then bring everybody home at the end, you know? So
Yeah,
that being the closing track on the album, and then have kind of the remix of all the main melodies come back up in epilogue. I thought that was a really good way to close it, which is important, not for pretentious reasons, but like because as an entertainer, I've noticed a lot of our entertainers aren't doing that anymore. They're not doing their job. They're just criticizing us constantly. So, TJ is asking about FL Studio. That's where I perform. Like I put all my tracks in to play live. The actual DAW that I use to make my music is called Auxy, AUXY, and it's an app that I use on a tablet, and I make all the tracks start to finish on a tablet, and then import the stems and turn them into playable action events I can use on my controller here, my Akai Fire. So, and this one's actually designed to work with FL Studio specifically, so it works really well for a live setup. But what was I saying? Oh, and then as far as the titles go, I got good news for you.
yeah.
The So I was kind of just having fun with an idea. Um, and if you notice, the name of the album is Completely Safe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to give all the titles, like one of my favorite parts about old 80s music, especially like one-off bands where you'll find a CD in a bargain bin, is a lot of the titles of their songs are so like high-minded and pretentious sounding. It's really funny. And it's like, but you'll get into it. Like you'll hear like Tainted Love, a great song, right? But
Oh
it
yeah.
sounds so silly as compared to how pretentious, that's not the right word, but how serious it sounded like the title meant was to him, you know? I mean, it
Yeah.
was presented as like, this is, tainted love. Like, they took themselves very, very seriously, and the titles were always like that. But if you look at the titles and you add the name of the album to the end of them, they make sense for what I really wanted to name the songs.
All right.
Do
Speaking
you
of your
see?
songs,
Do you see what I'm
uh,
saying?
yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to pull up some of your
It was
other
just a
albums
goofy way
here.
to sound pretentious on the cover of it, and then to have a kind of a double meaning underneath. So if you add Completely Safe to the end of each of the song titles, that's
Yeah.
the real title of the song. So it's kind of fun little gimmick.
All right. So we got the guns of the IMS Star Shatter. I understand what the inspiration for this one is.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Black Knight.
Yep,
How
he's the
how did
man.
how did you uh, how did you think of this? How did you turn that into a musical expression?
Well, actually, Black Knight approached me on Minds, and I don't exactly know. I don't remember how the original conversation started, but him and a couple other people really liked the music I was working on, and I was honored because that's what has been the toughest part about music my entire life is I'm really, really bad at the marketing side of it. I don't know how to get it in front of people. So to have people, show up and say, "Hey, we really like this," that meant a lot to me. So um, he eventually came up with the idea because he'd seen that I'd made some music for a couple of indie video games and stuff. So he came up with the idea of making a track inspired by the the series, his sci-fi series, the Star Shatter series. Um, and I started working on some sounds that I liked, and the melody
Mm-hmm.
that I started working with, um, I actually repurposed a song that I didn't really know what to do with when I first started, Chillkid.
Yeah.
It was a totally different track that just got abandoned, and because I didn't really have a good home for it, and I didn't like the title of it and all this stuff, so I just loaded that up and then replaced all the instruments with um, updated sounds and stuff because I was more experienced with using the software, and yeah, I wanted to give it this feeling of you see this great big ship, and like you think about if you're in space, you're not anchored to anything. You're not. I mean, gravitational forces are pulling you around, but a lot of the reverberation of like a howitzer or any of the military hardware that you see out there, it's
Yeah.
a lot of that force is going into the ground to absorb that, right?
Right.
And then even then, it's still like huge explosion sound, right? So I wanted to give that feeling of what it would be to be inside of the cannon. Really, like your ship is a big gun, and like you can just feel it, boom, 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 all throughout the whole song. And that's what I was really going for. And I think I got pretty close to what I had in mind. And Black Knight seemed really excited about it, and so did everybody else. So yeah, it kind of came together from there.
All right. Shall we play a sample?
Absolutely, man. Sure.
All right, here we go.
And I'm gonna sit here awkwardly and not know what to do, but I'll figure it out.
Well, yeah, I know what you mean. I get a little awkward too. So I got a solution for while that plays. Boom.
Sure. I like it. I just gave a thumbs up.
Now I'm getting what you mean about the feeling of the guns.
Yeah, at the beginning there, I also wanted to kind of have that, since it's such a long ship, have that time delay where there's the boom, like there's the report afterwards where the primary sound wave gets there, I'm not a physicist or anything like that, but I was trying to go for that.
But you go with sound. That's got to count for something, right?
Well, thank you. I feel like I'm just kind of a doofus who's playing around with stuff, but yeah, it's fun.
And actually, while I was reading Star Shatter, I was listening to your music. Ironically, I hadn't grabbed this album yet at the time. Wish I had.
Okay, I get what you mean. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I mean, I've been making my way through his books, and yeah, I hadn't thought about putting the soundtrack in the background. That's funny. But hey, I did want to say thank you for picking that up, because I know it seems like a little thing because music has become so, like, we have it everywhere. It's coming out of everywhere now. There's music, just, it's so easy to get to that it's often easy to forget that, there's people that are, paying bills and stuff. So I can tell you that me and my family, we really, really, really appreciate it that you took the time to pay for that. I mean, that's huge.
What I'm like is that I'm seeing some more albums here available that I got completely safe, and I got the Star Shatter song. But now that I'm taking a closer look, I'm like, oh, you got so much more going on here.
Yeah, I've been trying
Come
to put out
Back
as much
Stronger. I haven't listened to any of these yet. So, which one of these would you like to sample on the show?
Let's see here. Well, what's cool about this album is that it was, to me, the theme was about, kind of the struggles of being a father, out of the millennial generation,
Yeah.
and kind of reclaiming some of the things that the boomers did right. Which there are some things for sure. Everybody likes to crap on boomers, but they definitely. I think that honestly they got duped in a lot of ways. So the economy stuff, I've got a lot more patience with that than I used to. But yeah, there was a lot of things that our parents really tried to get right. They just were blindsided by. Like for example, when I was 6 years old, um, I was having a lot of trouble in school, and my parents wanted to try to give me help me out and get me an advantage and figure out what's going on and see if there's anything they could do about it. And that was right in the height of the ADHD craze, right? So I'm a
Oh
six
yeah,
year
I
old,
remember that. I got pumped full of Ritalin myself.
right? I mean, and think of that. I was 6 years old, and I was already struggling. I was already getting bullied and having a hard time with just about everything school related and stuff. I was just really struggling and just felt really down about it. And then all of a sudden, I have a clinician telling me, I mean, think about this from a 6 year old's perspective. I know people argue with me when I say it, but like basically what I heard is your brain is broken. So you're not like other kids. And here's this chemical that you have to take to get to zero, not to succeed, but to get to the starting line for everybody else. You
Yeah.
know, like you're the kid who picked the bumper car that just won't go, like no matter how much you floor it. You know, or
Yeah.
like nobody told you have to shift, so you're just redlining it in first gear while everybody's taking off. That's what it feels like to be told like your brain is broken at such a young age, and that's followed me my whole life. But my parents, it's not their fault because they were told by all the experts. Remember, listen to the experts.
Yep. Mine as
Like,
well. They were just trying to help me succeed, and
yep. And the pharmaceutical reps just needed to make the numbers. So we were caught in the crosshairs,
yeah, that's a whole nother conversation in and of itself. And
Yes, sir. I mean,
yeah,
obviously, I don't want to take it too
I actually
political,
was
but
taking Ritalin, and as soon as I developed a head twitch, the doctor pulled me off. It said, "Nope, we need to stop that right now." But that twitch
wow,
never went away.
really?
So yeah,
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's all sorts of stuff that's connected to that. But I mean, it wasn't necessarily their fault because they were told to work their work, their job, work hard, do all the stuff, pay for all the
hmm
things, provide all these opportunities if they could, and then save up for retirement and set yourself up to finish out your life. I mean, and they were given all these options for doing that while trying to take care of all the kids they were told to have, right? And they got stressed out, and it's tough. But again, I used to crap on boomers all the time, but now I'm realizing that they were doing the best they could with the information they had, and I saw how easy it was to see the whole world get the wool pulled over their eyes. We
oh
saw it
yeah. And
firsthand.
once you have a kid yourself, it's like a whole nother ball game, and you start to
Yep.
understand. It's like, wow, I was so arrogant to think I knew it all.
I would literally do anything to take care of my kids. I mean, anything. You ever seen a movie
hmm
where it's like a apocalypse kind of thing, and then somebody
Yeah.
will like, kill for food or for a car or something? Like,
Yep.
I'm not saying I'm looking to do that, but I'm like,
Yeah.
if I
That's
will
like
do
one of those
whatever it takes to
last
take care of my kids.
options.
Yeah. And if it was just me, I used to be homeless especially when I was trying to really get the band going. I was
Yeah.
like, I need to eliminate all the unnecessary things. Like, I don't need my apartment if we're going on tour. So I was homeless in the shelter, living in a car, sleeping on benches if I needed to, like just whatever I could do. And I wouldn't have been in that kind of position for just myself, you know?
Yeah.
So I get it with the boomer stuff. So that's why. So what I was getting at was the first track on the album is called Melina Boomer. It was me kind of saying, "Hey, I get it, and I forgive you." and so I know it doesn't really sound like that in the music, but that was kind of my heart whenever I started mixing that, as I had a lot of forgiving to do. So
So
yeah,
that the one you'd like to
sure,
sample? All
yeah,
right.
sure. I'm gonna mute my mic unless we're talking.
All righty.
Kind of a just a side note.
Yeah,
Can you hear me? Okay?
I can now.
Oh, sorry. Well, one thing that's kind of interesting I realized the other day is, in all my songs, I really try to put a distinct bass line in them so that you can um, like really get kind of that groove going
Yeah.
somewhere near the beginning of the song, if not the very beginning. And I was like wondering where did that come from because I play bass, but I've never it's not my like primary instrument. And then in fact, there it is right back here. But I realized that even though I'm like not really tight with my dad now, when we used to drive around out in Oklahoma, like if we were going somewhere on a long drive, he'd put on like oldies. And anytime there was a song with a strong bass line, he would always go, listen to that bass line. And he would, specifically point it out, like, that's so cool. Like, this song just bounces with that bass line. So good. He would just make a big deal about it. I never quite understood it till I started making music. And then I just realized that that's
That's
been like the
probably the
focal point.
backbone of the song.
Yeah, exactly. And after talking to a few bass players and stuff, I've interacted with a lot of them, and you know, that's how they kind of feel. Like sometimes bass is not just an instrument; it's like percussion too. It drives part of the percussion and the syncopated notes in the beat and stuff like that. So
Cool.
yeah, I really appreciate bass, man, and I realize that goes all the way back to my dad pointing it out in all sorts of songs growing up, like oldie songs.
All right. Let's get a little bit more of this tune going here. By the way, chat, if you could let me know if it's coming across the YouTube properly, I'd appreciate it. I'm assuming it is, but I wish I had a way to like fade that out as we come back to chatting the sound instead of just abruptly ending it. But
Yeah, I'm gonna figure out the OBS thing or another software, and I'll be better prepared next time to do stuff like that. But yeah.
yeah, but I know I've told you this in private before, but if I ever do make that video game I want to make, I'm definitely going to come looking to see if you're available at the time to score it.
Absolutely, man. Be honored to. Yeah, I had that. Honestly, the retro wave thing, I hadn't even thought of it. Like a lot of '80s music, kind of got on my nerves as a kid.
Yeah.
Mostly because like it was on in places I didn't want to be. Like there was this daycare I got put a lot, and they would play some of the most irritating. I mean, at the time, it was irritating to me as a kid, and everything felt so like reverby. Like where did you record this in like a like in the outer space? Like where is this cavernous void? There'll be. I imagine they're recording and they're like, our bass player just fell into the cold, uncaring void, but I guess he's still playing, so keep rolling. Where did Chet go? Where is he? But everything was just like, all the reverb. So it always felt so like lonely and like open and and like all the saxophone solos and everything. So a lot of '80s music just kind of turned me off for a while. And then I got into the Huntingtons, which is like a like a band that's sort of like the Ramones, but they're for the 2000s.
Yeah.
And they had a lot of stuff about 80s stuff. So I kind of checked it out again. I was like, okay, it's not as bad. But then I was working on the soundtrack for oh shoot, it's the album is called Space, but I feel really bad. I don't remember the name of the album right offhand. But I yeah, so I was working on that, and the guy asked me if I could compose some retro wave for him, and I was like, "Excuse, who's he, Whatty?" And he sent me to this album called Better Than Reality by Lukhash, Lukhashsh, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I get it." It just felt like video game slash 80s, and it had all the synth wave kind of stuff, and I was like, "That's interesting." I
Yeah,
hadn't
I
thought about that,
love
and I
the
started
80s
trying
synth
it.
myself.
Yeah, and I heard it with new ears, I guess was what it was. I was ready to hear it differently, and I started working on their music, and I fell in love with it. So a couple of people have told me it's not quite what I listen to, and I'm like, it's not what I listen to. I think I got like "Oh Sleeper" is like the last song I played earlier today. I was listening to a couple of their albums, so I've listened to a lot of punk, a lot of ska and metal and all sorts of stuff. So I had no idea I was going to be making EDM or dubstep or retro wave. So
Yeah. Now, I mean, I say I love the 80s synth, and so for the longest time, ironically, my favorite song, I rarely ever listen to it, but it's Depeche Mode,
hmm.
Enjoy the Silence. I always thought that was completely 80s, and one day I looked up and I was like, oh, that's from 1990? Yeah. It's like, and maybe it was a re-release, so I don't know, but I mean, it sounds as
Yeah,
80s as it gets to me,
I'm
but
gonna
I
write
just
that down.
love the
I don't
background
know it right
music in
offhand.
that. What's that?
Here, let me. What was it? Hang on, let me write that down. I'm taking notes on that's. I want to check it out. Depeche Mode. I've heard of them, but I
Yeah,
haven't heard of that song.
yeah. Enjoy the
It's
Silence.
okay, and you'll tell me after that or what? Ha ha ha. Uh, it's
But you
funny
were
how
mentioning
often that happens.
what's that?
Oh, go. Oh, when people tell me, "Oh, I love the '80s. I love the '80s. Have you heard of Nirvana?" And I'm like, I don't think that's from when you think it is, buddy. I was there when it was coming out, but yeah, I don't think that was the '80s.
Yeah. So you mentioned space, and I'm looking at this album, Outrunning a Destroyer.
Oh yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Is like,
That's
is that
actually
inspired by the Borg cube?
that's kind of what I had it like in the back of my mind, but I just the idea was it's for a little app, a little phone game.
Yeah.
One of the guys from the indie dev team did a side project just to see if he could get into making app games, and yeah, so I he wanted a kind of like he gave me like three different genres and threw them at me like, can you do this? And so I did my best to kind of go in the middle between the things he was asking for. So that was a lot of fun to work on. And if you listen to how the songs are structured for the games, they're usually in distinct sections that are the same length, or like one is double the length of the other. That's because they have to loop into each other depending on what's going on in the game. So if you listen, oh no, actually this one I did that for the menu. The first part of the song is the menu music, and it's the same melody, but it's actually in a higher pitch. So all the instruments are kind of upscaled, and then it drops down into the real song. But I just put it into one track for the soundtrack.
Yeah. Well, like when you're scoring a video game, it's usually designed to be broken up into sections anyway.
Hmm.
Like
And
what one game I noticed, like Hollow Knight. I don't know if you've ever played that.
I have it's on my Steam wish list. Every time the price comes down, I don't have the cheddar to buy it, but it's on the list.
Yeah, what was the composer's? I think it was Ken Larkin or something like that. But
Okay.
I noticed like when you're in the City of Tears, you got he's got two different versions in there of that tune, and one when you're actually in the city, and then
Okay. Yeah.
you go into a building and you have a more muted version of it, and then when you go back outside, it comes back in full, which I thought was really neat.
Yeah, I mean, it was a totally new experience for me. I was familiar for of how some dynamic music plays, in games and stuff. So yeah, dividing it up into pieces made it easier to make sure that everything would line up too. But I mean,
Yeah.
I'm looking up his name because I read a big long article. Mick Gordon. So this is the guy that did the Doom 2016 soundtrack.
Yeah.
And I think he did the music for Eternal as well. There was a big controversy about it, but the guy is really, really incredible at that process. And this article was about some problems he had with the dev team, but he went really in depth with how he structures his music, for games and stuff in his process. And I saw one of the steps was if they added the soundtrack as part of the contract, it had to be a separate contract, and it was a separate project. Technically, he was using all the same music and condensing it into tracks that were reasonable. So I decided to try to mix it that way from the outset, within the software, so it was all within the same project file. And so I was doing the two jobs at the same time. I was getting separate music for each thing, and then I would separate the tracks and make sure that they crossfade properly. But then I had, by the end of mixing the music for the game, I had the soundtrack ready to go too. So yeah, because
Yes.
I think I'm smart sometimes.
Yeah. So, how did you actually see? Celeste does that a lot too. I've never played Celeste, so
I'm gonna write that
I'm
down
not
too.
familiar. But I mean, I just thought that was such a cool touch, to have like in a
Mm-hmm.
similar area or adjacent areas to have the music just varied slightly to let you know you're still in this main area, just a subsection of it.
Yeah, like I really liked. I like when I noticed that in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise is really, really great with their music. I think that was, of course, somebody's going to murder me if I get it wrong, but I think it was Hans Zimmer. Uh, um, I believe it was the same guy who did Master and Commander and Gladiator as well. I could be wrong. I could be like so wrong it's ridiculous. But if you listen, they knit the songs together throughout the entire series, and they always add touches of the main songs, whether they're changing the key slightly and stuff like that. And that really impresses me. Like when I kind of I'm tuning into the action and I'm getting into it, but then I start paying attention to the music. I start going, wow, that's neat. I like it. That tune from that song at the very beginning, like the where he's got the what's the big one, the orchestral music. I forget the name of a lot of stuff. Like I said, I'm
Yeah.
a doofus who loves music, but it's the big stringed instrument.
The cello?
The cello. That's the one. Yeah, anytime they got Jack Sparrow like in a boat on his own, where they've
Yeah.
got that playing, they knit that into to the entire rest of the soundtrack. And sometimes you barely notice it, but I was really impressed with that. So yeah, that stretched me a lot trying to do that with the music for the soundtracks. I'm not claiming I'm anywhere on the level of Hans Zimmer, but it was a fun inspiration.
Yeah. Shall we take a quick sample of outrunning a destroyer?
Sure, yeah.
Alrighty.
And by the way, TJ, I'm gonna look up Celeste. I'm gonna check that out. Thank you. Hey, James.
How's it going, man? I keep forgetting I could do this till halfway through the show.
Now, if you want to, you can kind of move the slider to about a third or 2/3 of the way through the song, and the song really picks up there. And I really wanted to put a lot of energy into that. That's the boss battle music.
Right here.
Yeah, that's where you get into the combat, and then the boss battle is near the end. It's getting there. I'm such a dork. I'm over here bopping my head to my own music.
You and me both.
It's funny because in this project, the guy was just making a throwaway app. He was just seeing if he could do it, but he still wanted the music.
Sorry, in this project, what?
The guy that was making it, he was like, I'm just trying to get it figured out and see if I can make, this little game. And he, when he told me what he was looking for, he wanted something a lot simpler to start. And then I just kind of went way overboard with it because I just had a lot of fun with the idea. It's called Shape Invaders. So that's why it's a big cube on the cover. I just remembered I forgot to say that. But yeah, you're just blasting. It's like Asteroid, but you're a little ship flying around blasting shapes that are flying at you. So,
cool.
yeah, when I gave him the final song, he was just like, "Whoa, that was way more than I expected." So I always think that's fun.
I guess that's what happens when you're really feeling it,
Yeah, I mean, because again, I love music.
It's all vibration, and so vibration is something you gotta feel and experience, not just hear a bunch of notes,
Yeah, and I'm so grateful when somebody wants to be a part of my music that I'd rather over deliver than under deliver. So that's always a fun little treat when somebody goes, "Whoa!" whenever you send them a track. Black Knight was the same way.
Okay. The next one you got up here is Knockdown.
This is in the Chillkid canon. This is the first official album because the stuff before this, like I said, I was still trying to figure out my app and stuff, and some of the same songs carried over.
Gotcha. So let's see what we got here. Full tracks. Okay.
Oh, if you'll notice, check this out. I love. I talk about my kids a lot because I'm a dork. But if you'll notice, there's 2 tracks in here: Nora's Heart and the Stars, and Penelope Questions Everything. Those are my 2 older daughters. And when I released this, Harper hadn't been born yet, but I had them consult with me on their own track because they asked me if I would make. Well, Nora asked me to make a song for her, and I was like, absolutely. And I let her title it. She said Heart and Stars, because that's what she was putting stickers on stuff, Hearts and Stars. But yeah, I made her song with her sitting there, and she wanted girl voices. So I was able to find a voice synthesizer and use it. And then Penelope liked some of my harder stuff. And she also just, everything is fair game for her for questioning. Everything I ask her to do, everything, scientific fact I tell her. So yeah, she liked some of the more reggae rock stuff, and so I was able to put that in her song. And then Harper's song ended up on I think it's on Millennium Boomer, or not on Millennium Boomer. What sounds bad on paper, but yeah, that one's called Good Morning Harper. She wasn't as able to confer with me on the technicals, but I waited until I found a beat that she liked and stuff. Yeah.
Now, you were mentioning your album Space earlier. I see it
Yes,
listed twice there. Oh,
that's
disc
that's
one and disc two.
yes, because as I said before, that each track is represents like a level. And then there's also some promotional music in there. There was a lot of extra tracks, and then and one thing that I had a lot of fun with them is I kind of expanded their vision for the music. So they wanted the music to be the a big feature in their game, and so as they had the music shifts back and forth between the different things that were going on, like the resource collecting and combat and then actual battle music and stuff. But then I was also like, well, what happens when you pause? Does the music just stop? And they were like, well, yeah, so that is what it is right now. And I'm like, can you play music in time with the rest of the tracks when they pause? And they're like, I guess we can, yeah. And then I made an 8-bit version of each of the tracks so that it'll loop properly. And so when you pause, it fades into an 8-bit version of the same song, same beat. So that's what those 8-bit remixes are, is the pause music so that the music doesn't ever just stop.
So you got gameplay mix and Jettison remix. That's the two different versions you're talking.
Oh, the other disc is the one with the 8-bit stuff, I guess. The reason why I did the Jettison stuff is I was trying to get some of the tracks ready to play live, and I needed
Ah,
to shorten them a little bit or put in other parts and make them more coherent as a live song. And I intended on doing it to all of them, didn't really get to it. But yeah, the other disc has some additional tracks, like a lot of extra goodies. And technically, they're not discs; so you can download them. I haven't sent out any physical CDs, but I put them together in that vein.
okay,
So if I
there are all
did,
the 8-bit remixes.
yeah, yep. And those were a lot of fun to put together. That was when I was first toying around with that sound.
Okay, and you have one more up here. I don't think I clicked on, so let's check that out. Sound Defense.
Yeah, yeah. This is I think this is the album that the the guy that asked me to do the music for the game I was talking. I wish I remember the name of it right offhand.
I just
I
saw
feel
the
like such
title
a
of that
jerk that I
song.
don't remember it. What is it?
Sorry, I just saw the title of the song. Mostly Peaceful Molotov.
Oh yeah, that one's a lot of fun. I had a ton of fun. That was right when Comrade Hotfoot came up. The guy that he threw a Molotov, and then he immediately set his own legs on fire, and he's hopping around, running out of there. It was like the silliest thing I'd
That
ever seen.
that it sounds like something straight out of Looney Tunes.
Yeah, and then the day before that, I think I had heard CNN talking about their building on fire behind the reporter, and he's like, "It's fiery, but it's mostly peaceful." And so all these memes were popping up, and I made that track
Yeah.
just for I call him Comrade Hotfoot because of that fancy footwork he was doing. Looked like Fred Astaire.
So do you ever like replay that video while just listening to that song, going, "Yeah, this works."
Oh, of course I do. That's my meditation time in the morning. Is Comrade Hotfoot. Yeah, yeah. uh, um, deep down though, like I love the memes, and I've been like semi black pilled on some things. So
Mhm.
there are times where I laugh at some pretty dark stuff. But I got to be honest with you, it doesn't bring me great joy to see another human just hurt. But I also, I guess I didn't like seeing a person with his legs on fire, but it was
But
the ideology, the
yeah,
arrogance,
you get the
the
irony of the instant karma there.
yeah, the concept of going into spaces that you had no hand in building and tearing everything down. That's what I was laughing at. Is just the arrogance being humbled by this. I mean, yeah, I almost used the R word, which that I don't want to get canceled before I get started. But yeah, these people just acting like total doofuses and thinking they're like saving the world by destroying it.
That
You know?
that's the bummer though, because they believe they're doing right. Some of, I mean, there are plenty of them, I'm sure, that know absolutely. Oh, I'm just out here to get away with stuff because I can. But
Oh
there's
yeah.
a lot of them who they really want to see a better world. They really want to see things get better, and they're caught up in
Well,
the group think.
they had
And
me for a
I,
while. You
yeah,
know, like I was on their side. Like as especially in the punk world, a lot of the people that I was coming up with, like going to Chicago, like I'm out in Polo, Illinois, which is
hmm
which is it's not anywhere near Chicago, but I used to live a little closer. And anytime we played concerts, we were either going to play out in the country out here, or we were heading into the city. So we got to know a lot of people out there. We got into the scene, and they changed my mind about a lot of stuff. Like I was really pro Iraq War at first because I was like, how paranoid can you be? Really? They just made this up, really? And then it turns out the WMD and all that stuff. They convinced me. They
I fell
changed
for
me.
that too, unfortunately.
Yeah, and they changed my mind about a lot of things, like big pharma and the Iraq War, WMD stuff. I became like I realized that I could still support soldiers without being like I sanction and support every world policing action. And I was on their side, and like I'm not a person who's super comfortable with all the trans stuff, but I learned how to conduct myself with tolerance and see the person.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is that they're all these people are revealing who they really are. All these friends that I had that convinced me of that, because they're not anti-war now. They're not anti-big pharma now. In fact, they all the beliefs they have. I mean, they might as well have removed the casualties and the dead Kennedys off their vest. They sewed the patches on. Like and the Ramones and all that stuff, or whatever, or anti-flag. They might as well have removed all those patches and put on Walmart and Amazon and Raytheon. Like you are the mainstream now. Like you agree with the mainstream. All the billionaires, all the tech billionaires, you agree with every one of them. All the people that you said were bad and were destroying the world, you're on board, on side with all of them.
They could run around looking like they're wearing a NASCAR uniform.
Exactly. Yeah. There's space for sale for sure. What was it? Was that in Talladega Nights where they put something over the windshield too, and he couldn't see?
Might have. I haven't seen that in so long.
Oh, it was. I think it was that. But yeah,
the only thing I can remember is the foot race for the end.
Yeah. With the what was it? Chariots of Fire playing.
Yeah.
Oh no, so. It was no, it was We Are the. I forget the name of it, which is a theme. That's the name of this interview. Is I forgot the name. But yeah. But yeah, I mean that's the thing I've been noticing is like this lefty stuff. I mean, I wasn't fully on. I was more of a centrist, right? But I was coming around to a lot of things. Like, okay, I see where you're coming from with this thing and that thing, and all of them abandoned that the first chance they got, the first opportunity they got. They left all that behind and started supporting people who are like literally beating people up in the street. Like going back and seeing some of their profiles. Like when I was still on Facebook, I got rid of that because oh my god. But I mean, it's a nightmare. But going back and seeing people that were the people that were compassionate and trying to like support good causes and be good people, all of them were like punch a Nazi in the face. And I'm like, I agree. Do you mean like Adolf and Goebbels? No, we mean like this pensioner who was walking down the street and we just happened to be protesting there. He's white, so he's a Nazi. Like, or anybody who wanted a good job and for sensible immigration, they're Nazis now. Oh, okay. What?
It's weird how they flipped so hard on that, and
it was like they were ready.
A lot of them don't even seem to realize it, and it's a bummer. I mean, they talk about tolerance and acceptance, and then they go around behaving in any way but without being self-aware. It's like, guys, we're with you on the tolerance and acceptance part, but this forcing it down everyone's throat.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody used to say forced tolerance breeds contempt. I can't remember who. Sorry, I'd like to credit who I heard that from, but
I've heard the quote before.
It might have been Rush Limbaugh actually.
Okay,
but it's like, hey, we're with you on the tolerance and acceptance. The problem is, it seemed like we had plenty of it for a while until they started harping on we need it, and then it's like somehow they manufactured. It's almost like they took that concept of forced tolerance breeds contempt and created contempt where there was none to begin with. And it's like, can you just calm down? People are people. Let them be people,
There's a concept, I think it was, I have to brush up on my James Lindsay, but I think it was Gramsci who talked about regressive tolerance, I think. The idea of we use that as a tool to get our ideas accepted and well, it's a tool, it's a means to power, and once you have the power, the tolerance is is removed from anybody outside of the
Yeah.
revolution, and it's like the moment I realized that I was no longer allowed to participate in my own beliefs anymore, but like here's your firmware update. I was like, this is not what we talked about. This is what we like. When you convinced me with compassion and debate and reason,
In
right?
principle, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Like what somebody was talking about. Somebody was asking me like how they think the Elon's a total moron, but they're like, but why does everything he does succeed? Why? They were getting really mad and like confused because in their brain he's a moron, but everything he does is really successful. And I was like, well, all of his decisions are based on first principles, kind of that stoicism idea of like you don't go to how you feel about things, which lately I don't know that he's been exemplifying that with like the
Yeah.
Alex Jones stuff, but that's okay. Everybody's
Yeah.
allowed to be a person, like you said.
Hmm.
But because you
Nobody's
start with
perfect.
your principle, and
Right.
that was what I was bringing up to him. I was like, you don't have the principle of free speech. It's a tool. It's a tool to power. That's why, I mean, the cognitive dissonance is only on my side because that their principle wasn't that. It was what do we need to get our people empowered. Same thing with Rage Against the Machine. Like Zach, I was like, he's a little too far on some things, but I get his
Mhm.
point on these other things, and I at least believe him. But now I'm like, with the COVID stuff, he couldn't bend over and take it fast enough, you know.
Yeah.
And plus, all of the guys in Rage Against the Machine are multimillionaires, but they're like, yeah, get pumped full of this drug that you don't want, by government. The government's going to do it because that's what they weren't anti-government; they wanted their government. So as soon as they found a machine they wanted to fillet, they were like, here we go, open up. It's
Now I
amazing.
think it was Tim Pool who said Rage Against the Machine became Rage on behalf of the machine.
That's a good way to put it. That's exactly right. Because I mean, they had us duped. They had us fooled. That what they wanted was like they wanted to get rid of the corrupt state. No, they just wanted the right kind of corrupt state. And I
Yeah.
mean, I should have known with Che Guevara on all their like. I was one of those kids in the '90s that when I saw somebody's face on a T-shirt, I didn't go, "Oh, okay, that's neat. I want to wear it." Right? I didn't just wear a Johnny Cash shirt. I found out who Johnny Cash was. I went to my
Yeah.
grandma. She had a bunch of his records, and I was like, "Oh, that's what Johnny Cash is." The Ramones. I'm going to listen to them. I'm just going to buy a shirt at Hot Topic and wear it. So all these kids running around with Che Guevara on their shirt. Like I knew this gay black kid who wore a Che Guevara shirt because Rage Against the Machine turned him into an icon, and I'm like, I got bad news for you, buddy. he yeah, he wouldn't have tolerated you for very long, just long enough to line
Yeah.
you up against the wall. Like these are not icons. These are actual like horrible people, and but they're the stylish bigotry that I like, it it's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. They see the fashion trend and they just join in without realizing what's really going on. They just
Yeah,
look at the surface level and don't peer any deeper.
it's the
Which,
same reason why they don't
again,
care.
nobody's perfect. I've fallen for that stuff myself, and
Right.
from time to time I still might. I hate to admit,
But that's
but
exactly why you and I have to be we have to be extra careful. I'm very, very gullible. I've always been really, really gullible because I'm kind of I mean, even though I get really nervous live and stuff like that, I am like an outward, outrovert. What is it? I know there's introverts and then there's like, oh, hey, there's Black
introvert and
Knight.
extrovert, I believe.
The extrovert. There we go. So I'm like really excited about stuff and like, yeah, I'm really out. Like I'm willing to try things and hear ideas and go, that's neat. But I've been duped so many times that now I have to look everything up. And that's the reason why is because it's easy to get fooled. It's so easy to get fooled. And when I heard the quote, it's
Yeah,
easier to fool a
it,
person than it is to convince them they've been fooled. I was like, I never want to be that guy. So any evidence I'm willing to hear, even Stacey Abrams
and
talking about election stuff.
it's
But like,
yep.
it's the same reason they don't care about
Yes.
like when people harp
Speaking
on
from
slavery.
experience, that quote is very true. I think.
Yeah, I realized as soon as I heard it, it burned like I just ate a habanero. You know what I mean? Like I felt it in my chest. I was like, oh, that's very true. That's me. That's literally me.
Yeah.
Like know him. I am him. But that's why the slavery stuff is really interesting to me because I I'm against all slavery, all of it. Right? I denounce slavery. Never should have happened. It was the thing of the time, and there wasn't a rising civilization that didn't have it. In fact, that's what slave comes from, Slav. This is stuff everybody already knows, but the word Slav, meaning Slavic people, they were the first people that were on that wide scale that were enslaved. But then little things like the fact that today in
now we're all free range
Benghazi,
slaves.
there's the biggest slave trade in human history going on right now. In what was the country that Benghazi is in?
Oh, my mind just went blank.
I just remember Benghazi because of the whole hubbub about the with Hillary and stuff. But anyways, the country that's it. See, I told you, I know a lot of like stuff scattered all over the place, but I don't remember the names of everything. but the biggest slave trade in human history is happening right now. And then the whole thing with like the Dahomey tribe, the Woman King movie that just came out, a bunch of people are waking up to this. Like, wait a minute, they were defending a slave nation in Africa, and then the fact that the first slave owner in the United States was a black slave owner named Anthony Casey, I think was his name. Which my first name's Anthony, so I was like, oh, Anthony, cut it out. But apparently, he was a very cruel slave master, and he's a black guy. It's like these are things that nobody talks about because they want the utility of the appearance of virtue, but not the actual virtue. And like, what was the word you used earlier? Principles. They want the utility of a principle until it's not useful. So they'll craft a weapon of government to be used against their enemy, but they're completely oblivious to the idea that it eventually is going to get pointed back at you.
When a principle is most difficult to adhere to, that's when it matters the most.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, with free speech, that was another one.
Yeah.
When people want to silence mean stuff, like what I've spent a lot of it's been a long, hard road learning how to be a good man.
Check your private message there.
Oh, slavery was an institution for centuries. Yeah, absolutely. And it still is.
But down in the chat, there's a private side. Check that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that would be great. Let's But
sweet.
What was the point? I was just making, and then I'll shut up. I promise.
No, you're here to talk. That's why I have you here.
I was just on something. I guess I just lost the trail. That's okay. But
the principles.
Speech.
Yes.
Free speech. So this was one that was tough for me because I don't like it. I don't like seeing people just being awful to each other, tearing chunks off each other, except for the meme side of it. The black-pilled side of me thinks it's kind of hilarious when people are just tearing each other up in the comments and stuff. But somebody was trying to be like, do you want people to just be just jerks all the time? Is that the kind of world you want to live in? And I'm like, no. But also, I know that the process of becoming a good person is it's important. And if it's illegal to be an asshole, it's completely meaningless becoming a good person. You know what I mean? So like you said, forced compliance kind of stuff like that, it's not genuine. It's not going to last, and it's going to breed contempt. Right. So like, what's the point of me learning how to not be an asshole if it's illegal to be an asshole anyway? Like, there's no character development. It's just, that's illegal. Sorry. You know? Mm-hmm. Or like, let's make sugary drinks illegal. Why don't I just learn how to have self-control instead of having to make it mandatory?
Easier said than done, but yes, I agree with you.
I'm doing a keto
I'm
diet
off
right
the
now.
Sugar now, so that was not easy.
You know, I finally just got tired of hearing Tim Pool bitch at me about sugary stuff, so I finally was like, fine. But yeah, let's bring somebody else in here to talk. I think I've blabbered on about enough things.
Yep.
Anti-slavery. Who would criticize you for being anti-slavery? I'm not saying I don't believe you. I'm just like stunned. Humans keep surprising me in a bad way lately.
Yeah, it doesn't even make sense. It's like too much sugar rots the brain, I guess, not just your teeth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know what? I was realizing that I listened to it. Okay, there's a lot of steps. So this is my ADHD coming out. There's a lot of steps to what I'm about to say. So I have recently started growing a particular type of plant. I don't want to like incriminate myself, but so
I'm boring.
I've learned
I just
a lot.
Avocado trees growing here. But.
There you go. Yeah. But that was a big change of heart and change of mind for me. It was one of those things I was willing to hear more evidence on, is the whole pot debate. And so somebody convinced me. I was rabidly against it, and I was like, fine, let me hear you out, you know. And they showed me a lot more evidence that I didn't know, and I realized a lot of things, and I changed my mind, right? So I've been growing it and kind of supporting people's right to have it and to participate in it if they want, do so responsibly. I don't think kids should be able to do it. And I kind of knew preliminarily about how that's bad for the development of the brain. But I listened to this Huberman Labs guy, and he did this whole presentation, start to finish, about like just about everything I've ever wanted to know about pot just a few days ago. And like, I am realizing, long story made longer, I'm realizing that a lot of the problems we're seeing, I mean, could possibly have stemmed from, think about all the people that told you about pot first. Were they like grandparents? Were they adults? Probably not. They were teenagers, right? People you went to school with and stuff. That's who I heard about it from. There's all the kids that I knew, like the teenagers and stuff. It wasn't like, my 40-year-old uncle telling me about it. It was the kid in the locker next to me, So finding out that it's terrible for your brain up to the
If you can hold that
like
thought for 1
25.
second. Hey, Black Knight, check your private messages.
Check your privates, buddy. Oh, no. Sorry. But yeah, so I'm realizing that
It
they
just
say
dawned
that
on me.
the early brain development with use of marijuana, like the how do I put this without sounding like a moron? The likelihood of creating of developing psychosis, like severe psychosis,
Yeah.
skyrockets the younger you start using marijuana.
Yeah.
And that with the medication and the soyification and all the estrogens, phytoestrogens, and everything, I think we're just seeing
the
psychosis.
fluoride.
Yeah.
It's a nice, perfect storm of stupidity happening.
With my kids, I make sure that every single water source that I personally provide to them has a reverse osmosis filter that filters out fluoride, or the Lexapure filter, which they've proved that it does filter out fluoride anyway. So yeah, like I'm making sure that their pineal gland is completely unmolested. I don't want them growing up like with their training wheels broken.
Unfortunately, Mr. Knight will not be able to join us. We got to remember, it's like 7 hours, or for you, 8 hours later for him.
Right. Yeah.
So he's going to be calling it a night. So
I got you.
Yeah, last thing he probably wants to do is he's winding down is get into a big, intense conversation.
Well, I was looking forward to having somebody to take over because even though I could blabber on all day, it'd be nice to. Yeah, you know what? I do want to say, like, because I think eventually I am going to have to help out with my kids and stuff like that. They're going to want me back, and I've taken up enough of your time. But I want to say, like, it means a lot to me, and I know that as a creator myself, sometimes it's hard to feel like what you're doing. I mean, with all the kind of the hiccups you can have putting together something, it's hard to feel like what you're doing is accomplishing what you're trying to. And I'm here to tell you, it's not. Like, I've been looking forward to this all week. I even watched a couple of videos on trying to figure out like some of the dynamics of an interview, just to make sure I'm not. I don't know if I succeeded at it, but not just being like a douchebag and taking over and stuff.
I thought it was a nice, free-flowing conversation that
I really enjoyed it.
Revolved mostly around that stuff. Do you want to sample one more before you go?
That's hard for me because I don't want to like. I love music, but I also like I feel really bad when I'm like, I'll have a new song and I'll ask somebody's opinion of it, and I'll just. It used to be I'll turn it on and just kind of sit there and like, I'll look like what was it, the over obsessed girlfriend meme, with the big eyes, and then I realized this is probably very uncomfortable, and so it was tough to get people to like listen, like my family and friends, to listen to my music with me there. So I'd have to turn it on and then leave the room. Or was it? There was a Chevy Chase movie where he's an author and he took a sabbatical to go write a book, and him and his wife went to this like cabin somewhere. Yeah, and he spent the whole movie working on this script or this book, and he gives it to his wife to read, and he's just sitting there, like doing the same thing. It was hysterical. She's like, it's a little weird, but yeah, I have a hard time believing that people are going to listen to my music sometimes. So I don't know. Let's see here. Let's take a look at. Let me tell you about one that's meaningful to me. Let's go to. Okay. They're all meaningful to me, but go to Sounds Bad on Paper.
All right, let me get to it.
It's the one with the big origami version of my of that same logo there. Yeah, it's the big red one there. Yeah, I guess there's just two big red ones. It was supposed to look like folded paper. I make all my own graphics. I don't always do great at it.
Okay, I see.
But if you go to the last track there, keep searching. Let me explain this one real quick.
All right.
I try to give my song titles vague titles, but then have a meaning attached to it sometimes. That's a little deeper. And that was actually from an experience with our first daughter. And we had a kind of a scare where we thought something was wrong late term. And we couldn't really do anything about it but wait for the ultrasound that was coming up. And so there was a period of a couple of weeks, it felt like, I think it was actually a week, where we didn't know if our daughter was alive, and it was a real tough week. Like, my wife would show up to my work crying, and I had to ask my boss, I need to go talk to her and stuff. She was just having such a hard time with it. And so we get to this ultrasound, and we're both real nervous and tense. And I'm trying to just keep it together, keep it strong, not show a lot of my cards and stuff, because she's a mess. And I was trying to keep it together for her, but inside I'm just like I've been waiting my whole life to have a kid, and so I don't even know if this kid's alive, and I'm just, full of all this anxiety, but keeping it together. And so we get in there, they start putting the jelly on her belly and stuff and getting everything ready.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I like that. Every little step helps you to climb a mountain. Yeah, you're right, Black Knight. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that was there for a few minutes, a couple minutes already. Sorry, I was slow in the uptake to get there.
No, that's no problem. But so we get in there, they put the jelly on there, and the tech is just reassuring us everything's gonna be fine, it's okay. And she starts kind of, doing the thing, looking like with the wand or whatever, moving around, looking for the heartbeat and for the image on the screen. Mm-hmm. And as she's talking, her tone's changing a little bit, and she's starting to get a little bit more aggressive with where she's pushing and how she's trying to, it's clear she's, searching. She's like searching for, like actually looking a little harder and getting a little frustrated. She furrowed her brow. And this whole time, my wife's holding my hand. And as we're both picking up on this, she starts squeezing my hand harder and harder, like my fingers were all jumbled up. And we're getting really nervous, and I'm still like just stone faced, just trying to just give her something to anchor to, right? But on the inside, I'm screaming, and we can just tell, the tech kind of goes, and it furrows her brow, and she tries from the other side, and she's digging around, and we are just like, my heart is breaking in my chest, and the tech looks at us and says, "Don't worry, we're going to keep searching." And that phrase stuck to me. The keep searching. Because that's what I was doing. I was waiting to meet my daughter. Mm-hmm. And I didn't mean to do this. I didn't plan on crying. I thought I was going to explain this without doing this. But
no, it doesn't get any closer to the heart than your children. So.
And so the monitor is making sounds this whole time as she's kind of moving it around, like somebody touching their microphone. And then it kind of, that sound falls off, and then she stops moving it, and she's pressing pretty far into my wife's belly. I wish I could show you, but I'm not going to demonstrate on my belly. But and then the little sound kind of pops up a little bit, like a choo-choo-choo. And she goes, "Oh," and my wife is still breaking my hand, and she backs up to the spot that she had just passed, and then she goes, "Ah," and then she turns up the monitor, and I hear this, and it was like the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard in my entire life. Is my daughter Nora's heartbeat? So I thought she was dead, and so. I wanted to figure out a way to put all that tension and that nervousness of that entire week until the ultrasound and those minutes leading up to that into a song. And I don't know that I captured all of it. And but that's what that song is about, is kind of this chaos and this discord and like, I think I felt a kick, but I don't know, and kind of back and forth, and things kind of starting and stopping, and then that moment where like there's just silence and we can't figure out if there's a baby in there.
Yeah.
And then I had her go back and do it again, and I got my phone out and recorded it. And I've had like 4 phones since then. It's the first thing I put on all my phones so that I always have it so I can listen to it, and I put it in the song. So I'm gonna mute myself and
Okay.
check my makeup, powder my face over there. Jesus.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
Hey,
that's
I actually do similar with my writing. Sometimes if someone's in an emotional state, I'll sit there and
Oh,
I'll think of something in my own past that was that intense, and I'll
wow.
almost like put myself in that same emotional state to write for that character.
I hadn't thought
So,
about doing it, approaching it that way, but that's a great way to connect with the characters. That's awesome.
all right. So
Sorry about
let's hear.
falling apart there. My
But
bad.
hey, on that subject, I don't blame you. You know, let's hear how you channeled that emotion.
That's still that the heartbeat sound. It still gives me chills when I hear it. So there was a lot of. It was good to finally get that out into a song that I didn't have to sing through because I'd have just been a mess.
Yeah, I got chills listening to that too, especially when it did the flatline sound, and then a little bit later the whooshing of the ultrasound, and then even at the end there when the tune almost became like celebratory, elated.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I can't tell you how relieved we were when we heard that. It was amazing, and she broke too. She started crying. Yeah, it was it was a mess, but yeah. So I try to have some fun with Chillkid, but I try to pack meaning into stuff, but I don't add any lyrics to any of it. Well, that's not necessarily true. There's some songs that have a little bit of like digital vocals and stuff, but few and far in between. Because, like I said earlier, our entertainers are doing a lot of preaching and talking, but they're
Hmm.
not entertaining us anymore.
No, they
Like
certainly aren't.
I mean, all of music has become no, not all of it, but a lot of mainstream music is garbage now. And I'm not
Hmm.
saying that I'm like a amazing, but I focus on trying to get good music out there to entertain people, not find something to preach at people for, you know. And the yeah the I was about to hit a quick point and I just totally lost it, but yeah. So I'm trying to fill in
I'm
that
glad I'm not
space.
the only one that does that.
Yeah. So like I want to give people music that I may have something I'm thinking about behind the scenes that it means to me with the
Hmm.
title. I can get a little bit of that, but I wanted to give people that disagree something they can come together and have fun doing again, you know?
Yeah,
Like I watched a documentary about ska that was hosted by Tim from Rancid,
yeah,
Tim Armstrong, and it reminded me of that '90s era when we were like, didn't matter what color you were or what you believed, like you could come to a ska show and just be a total idiot for a couple hours and have a blast with people from all over the world, from different backgrounds and religions and all sorts of stuff, and no
yeah,
one cared about your skin color or
yeah.
what political who you voted for. It never came up. We were just skanking and having a great time.
Yeah, my folks, they like to watch on cable TV Buzzer. It's a game show channel, and they're
Okay.
watching Match Game from the '70s and talk about a world that doesn't exist anymore. And
Right.
you had people of all shapes, sizes, colors, and creeds there just having a good time together. None of that mattered. They were just people
Yep.
having fun together. It's like,
Yep.
how do we lose that in the name of we need to be acceptance? It's like we had it. I mean,
Yeah.
I know we weren't perfect. That there were still prejudices, and there
It's
unfortunately to a degree
you're
always
never
will
gonna
be.
get rid of it. And as you've
Yeah,
seen, the people who were supposedly trying to free us from prejudice are
yeah.
segregating everything. So I don't believe we're ever
And
going to
it's
get rid of that.
heartbreaking.
But the reason why is because they don't want to put themselves out of the job, the revolutionary job. So that's why they tell you not to be colorblind anymore, because that was the goal. Is we're going to all hold hands and be colorblind, and everything's we are the world, right?
Yeah. And now
But
they're
as
holding
soon
a
as they got
magnifying
that,
glass up and a paint swath to find out
yeah,
what category you're in. It's like, what? When did that nonsense start?
yeah, and it
You
was
know?
it was all just a vehicle to push change towards a new paradigm, and then they just took all that away.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating because I was like, we were all on board, everybody was cool with it. Like for a while, my favorite actor was Denzel Washington. So when people talked about the Oscars so white, I'm like, some of my favorite movies are just well, they're just actors. I didn't care about it until you brought it up.
And I
Or
don't care
like,
who you are on the planet. Everybody wishes they could have James Earl Jones's voice.
fair enough. I would go with Morgan Freeman probably, but just kidding. That'd be fun to hear those two get together and have a chat, right?
Yeah.
But I don't
Yeah.
know if
Remix their voices together to make them sound like they're singing.
yeah, have T Pain come and auto tune both of them. uh, but I did want to cover some real quick. Asher said earlier it needs to have similar laws to alcohol. I think it was about weed. I didn't want to give the false impression that I saw that video and now I'm anti-weed again. I'm not. And I agree with you. It needs to be. I'm very slow to be like, government, make another rule for me. But I do agree that we do need to treat it similarly, because I'll tell you
Yeah.
what, I feel a heck of a lot better the next morning
Not exactly the
after
same though, but yes, very similar.
I definitely feel better with my after weed than I do after alcohol, especially brandy. We found this gas station nearby that has a real, like, a good brandy that they had on sale, and we
Hmm.
had way too much of the stuff lately here. But man, that stuff makes you feel like you got hit by a truck the next day. It's pretty bad, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely agree with you. And like finding out the science behind what it's doing in your body, I've decided to stop drinking, you know, too. Like I watched his whole video about alcohol and he goes into like the chemistry of what you're doing to your tissues. And yeah, I came out of it realizing that weed is much better for you than almost any type of alcohol at all.
Yeah. I almost wish those two were reversed.
Thank you.
But anyway, I think now's a good time to wrap it up. Anything else you want to shout out before we?
I have somebody distracting me. Sorry about that. What did you say?
I said this is probably a good time to get things wrapped up. So,
Okay,
anything else you want to mention or shout out before we call it?
I just wanted to bring attention to IronAge and to Gilded. You know, I obviously haven't been as active as I'd like to be in the group, but it's been really nice to have someone to go to talk to you know, other guys that are
Oh
creators or
yeah.
just in the space or talking about things that create or content that they enjoy. So that's been really cool, and I'd be remiss if I didn't shout that out. I know that you probably already covered it, but yeah, if anybody wants to download Gilded and take a look and get in the conversation, there's a lot of great guys there, and you know, it's hard to find a community. I'm in the
Yeah.
middle of nowhere right now, and I've been
Hmm.
so focused on work and taking care of my kids and the music. But like I don't have Facebook anymore, and everybody I know was like, I'm gonna trade my real life for like social media. So like, it's been nice having some folks to talk to. So
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it really helped me focus too because up until the Gilded, I had like about two people I could talk to about it,
mhm.
and felt more often like I was just talking at, and they're just going, waiting for me to
Right.
get through
Even
my
though I was
spiel.
over here. Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I
So,
also wanted to say real quick, Black Knight Ragmar here said that these people cannot stand resistance against authoritarianism, which is really ironic because all of our favorite like movies are pretty much a lot of stuff about justice and people standing up to authoritarianism. And it reminded me of when Trump was like, okay, it's time to end these lockdowns, right? And he
yeah,
there was all these things they were like, you need to do this, you need to do that, and he's like, I don't have the authority to do that, you know, over and over again. And
yeah,
I saved it. There was a New York Times, I think, article or Washington Post, one or the other,
yeah.
where they were basically complaining that Cheeto Hitler wasn't Cheeto Hitler enough. They wanted him to like lock stuff down and do all this like heinous shit they'd already accused him of that he just wouldn't do.
Yeah, that's right. And but I
It
mean,
was really funny.
a lot of folks seem to forget. The government is there as a tool to be used by these states, not the other way around. It's like the government can't just go and tell states what to do outside of what the Constitution outlines as far as what the government's powers are. Anything else is not in the federal government's hands. That's up to the state governments
Yeah.
to decide internally.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, that's what I
that
said.
gets overlooked a lot.
Yeah, that's what I said earlier. That I'm very careful now not to to be quick to ask the government to like here give me a new law
Yeah.
that something I can't do.
Yeah.
Like
Every time I hear
seatbelt,
someone say there ought to be a law, I cringe.
yeah, like seatbelts are a good example. I was convinced that was the seatbelt law, of course. Yeah, that's for safety. They're keeping me safe. Same thing with fluoride in the water. It's for my teeth, right? Yeah, like all these things that like I don't need someone else to do for me. Like if it's a
Yeah.
good idea, I'm going to do it, and if I don't do it and I die, that's
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like
We get to
that's
choose
part of
our own
life.
destiny.
Yeah, exactly. So like the seatbelt thing, I got into a debate with somebody about it the other day. They could not understand what I was talking about, and I put it this way: I was like, "Look, what does the seatbelt law do? Does it force a seatbelt across your lap? No, It just means that if you don't wear one, you owe money to the government, which does nothing to put a seatbelt on you, and like, I know I can understand me saying to people who get into my car, could you please put on your seatbelt? And then like not wanting to go anywhere until everybody's buckled in, because I understand what they do. But making it illegal doesn't really do anything but create a revenue stream, which doesn't do anything. People are going to either, because honestly, there's times where I've not put it on because I'm kind of just like, fuck you. I don't want to put on my seatbelt, and it's the same thing with like, not like, I got to be honest with you, when I was a kid and I tried like alcohol or drugs, most of it was like, it felt like I want to do this because I'm tired of people telling me not to, but doing it all the time, like my parents would drink, but they would be like, you can't drink. And so it made me want to like try it. I don't, that's not a great example because I don't want my kids to drink, but,
well, you probably have a similar defiant streak to me. As soon as someone says you can't do that now, even if you weren't interested, now it's like, oh yeah, watch me.
Yeah, and so the seatbelt thing, like they were like, oh, I see what you mean. When I was like, look, it doesn't actually do anything. It's just another revenue stream. Just like everything that you ask the government to do, they go, oh, revenue stream, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so they can't take guns away. So what do? They come up with all these like exorbitant fees and stuff you have to pay to get to access the Constitution, And that was another thing I changed my mind about. I didn't used to be all guns, like yay guns. I was like anti-guns for a very long time. And but then like somebody really laid it out for me, like what is the nature of your liberty? What is the nature of government's role in that? And if you look at the Constitution or the Bill of Rights, they're all just things, they're limits on the government. They're not limits on me. They're not telling me that I have enumerated rights. They're enumerated powers of government. They're not defining what I'm allowed to do, because it says at the beginning that just by being born I have those rights, right? That's why it's really powerful, but you hear people misquoting it all the time because they think it's the list of the things that I can do. No, it's the list of the things that the government cannot do. Like that's all it is. Yeah. Sorry, I could go on and on. I don't mean to. I'm sorry. But we got somebody just joining here. Herman P. Hunter,
the Lore Forge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see him over on Gilded a lot too.
Cool, man. This is a lot of fun. I appreciate it. It's funny. Right after I told you all that I'm quitting drinking, my wife poured me a drink. Just so you know.
Yeah, I thought she brought you a coffee.
Yeah, I haven't told her yet because that's another thing I'm realizing.
Safe with me. I won't tell anybody.
Oh, fair enough. Well, just closing. One thing I wanted to do real quick. I promised my daughters I'd do this. So I got a handful of their drawings I want to show you guys. Is that okay? All right. Absolutely. So I love it. My kids, the first time I really connected with the fact that my kids are like their own people, but like I literally made them with my private parts. And my wife, like that's so weird to me that we like this person didn't exist. And my wife and I made a decision and now there's a person. And then when like they come up with their own thoughts and tell you something you didn't tell them, it blows my mind. So we'll start slow here. So my daughter wanted, she said, I'm going to write a song for you to play as Chillkid. And I said, oh, that's sweet. Okay, cool. Knowing that I'm like, how is she going to write a song, right? So she knows that music notes exist. So she drew some music notes. I have no idea what key this is in or what notes those are, but there they are. And then she got distracted and she drew an H for her baby sister Harper. And I'm guessing that's either a mouse or a portrait of her baby sister right there. So this is that's basically, I'm sending this to the Louvre. Okay, as soon as we're done, they're going to put it up in Paris. So I like that one a lot. She was going to throw it away and I was like, no, give me that. She tried to throw this one away, but I stopped her. And this is her version of me, I guess, without a mustache.
Without the hat.
Yeah, I was wearing a blue shirt, apparently. But I'm not a ginger, unfortunately. But yeah, but she got the blue eyes there. So yeah. And then this is another portrait of Harper. She makes sure to put an H because she doesn't know how to spell Harper yet. That's fair. But I love the one little curly Q hair. That's freaking adorable.
Yeah, it's almost Dr. Seuss-like.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, yeah. I used to call Nora my little Nora Who. But okay, so this one, I love because obviously we're starting off with a unicorn. We're figuring out horse anatomy. Yeah, a happy little unicorn there. But if you notice, on the ass end over here, we got 3 different symbols there. And I think what happened here is that she was trying to make the horse shiny, like give it a shiny surface. So she
Yeah.
tried one way with kind of like an asterisk looking star. She's like, nah, that's rubbish. I don't like that. Well, we'll try an actual 5-point star. Nope. And then she goes down here, and I think that's some kind of heart or a circle. And finally, she just gives up and goes, "Hey, it's glossy, okay?" Throws an arrow. It's like glossy. This shit's glossy. Look at it. So, I love this one. That drives me nuts. And also, we've been doing a lot of dinosaur stuff lately. For Harper's birthday, we did a dinosaur theme. So she drew me a T-Rex and I guess a baby T-Rex that is not green yet. I guess they grow into that. She even wrote roar. And I helped her learn how to spell roar. That was fun. So this is, by the way, all of these I think are Penny's drawings, Penelope's drawings. And then for Veterans Day, this is the last one. She drew me this because they know that I was
Cool.
in the Army for 6 years.
And
so they
thank you for the service.
No problem, man. No problem at all. I definitely wasn't ready to re-up, and I think I dodged a lot of bullets there. So,
Yeah, right.
but yeah, and then she drew, I guess, herself over here next to a smaller flag, and I love it. And then it's Veterans Day today. Yay! So yeah, I promised her that I'd show those off, and I did. So I appreciate it, man.
All right, and I appreciate you coming on. This was a great conversation, and
Absolutely.
I hope to have you
blast.
back on sometime soon.
And I will try not to cry next time. So.
Hey, I avoid certain topics on purpose because
Fair enough.
I'll do the same thing on some conversations.
Well, so that's now my next goal is to get you to cry on one of these. So.
Uh-oh. I just put a target on my back.
Oh yes, you did, brother. We'll figure it out. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right, everybody. That's going to do it. If you enjoyed this presentation, hit the like. If you didn't, I appreciate you dropping by. See you next time, and God bless.